You're listening to Heroes in the Moment.
What's up, heroes? I'm Michael.
And I'm Nathan.
Today, Morbius.
Morbius!
Yeah.
Good!
Dude, that movie, man, was unreal.
Bro, to be honest, Michael, I'm still in shock of what I saw.
Dude, that movie was quite possibly the best movie of the year.
I think when it comes to Marvel movies, too, I think personally, I think top 3, top 5 is definitely doable.
I could agree with that. Like, dude, unreal.
Listen.
The acting, the villain, everything about it, I love.
The CGI.
The CGI, the end credits, man.
This film was truly groundbreaking. I felt personally for cinema.
Right. It was just so phenomenally amazing that the fact that we are lying to you right now.
What? The fact?
Because that movie was the biggest heap of crap I've ever
Dude,
laid my eyes on.
Bro, I fell asleep during the movie. Like
You
five
did.
times. I'm like,
You
Michael,
did.
keep me awake. Dude, and even when I wasn't tired, I still wanted to fall asleep.
Yeah, for sure.
One of my buddies, Corey, he said it like this. He said, I've never wanted to leave a movie theater while watching the movie.
Right.
We said, but this movie made me want to.
Right. It felt like a chore. If I'm
It
being
did.
honest.
No, it really did.
I'm glad because, like, usually, me and Nathan both usually go to see the movie like 2-3 times max, for, this podcast or to get, more insight. I didn't do that for this one, and I don't plan on seeing it again. I just didn't want to. Like, I feel like I got everything I needed out of it.
Dude, I have no desire to spend 2 hours of my life again like that.
Right.
But like, obviously going into it, I appreciate though that I didn't have any good
Right.
expectations, right?
It made us appreciate the certain scenes that were good more.
Yeah, more.
So than, going in with higher expectations. Because when
Yeah.
we saw, the trailers were a huge fake out. They clickbaited the crap out of us.
Yeah,
'Cause
Michael Keaton.
I know.
And then it's not.
I know. He was supposed to have like a big role apparently, and so were a bunch of others.
Spider-Man.
And Spider-Man was supposed
posters,
to
all
be
that
posters. There were supposed to be references. They were supposed to be talked about. And it just didn't happen. And like after all the reshoots and stuff, and the trailers were super deceiving because the trailers made it look pretty decent. Like it looked like a pretty
stuff.
good movie.
Yeah, it really did.
It did. And then it was just super faked us out, and it was super deceiving, and it was disappointing. It really, really was. Because I didn't have high expectations anyway for this movie in the first place. But I liked Morbius's character. I always have in the comics and stuff, but it just did not work out at all. At all. Like I'm so disappointed.
I agree, and I think that falls all on the director.
It does.
I think the cast they had would be fine, with the direction of someone who actually knows what they're doing. But Daniel Espinosa should never touch another film again.
No.
If you talked about creating the most lifeless, non-creative superhero, most predictable film of all time, it would be Morbius.
Oh yeah, it was super, super predictable, and even
everything that happened,
it was just not. It was super pointless. Like everything. Like I was watching this movie and I was like, where this has no purpose. This has no fluidity. Yeah. Like I can't relate to these characters as much as I would like to. And it's super disappointing. So spoilers ahead as we get into a more of a breakdown. We'll talk about the characters. We'll go into cons, and then we got very few pros, just a couple, unfortunately, pros for this movie. So we're going to get into it. So let's just start off with our main character, Michael Morbius, played by Jared Leto. I feel like, honestly, he's more of a highlight of this movie. I love, Jared Leto's great, and I feel like the character stuff great, but the writing around it was terrible.
No, I completely agree. Jared Leto excels in these really eccentric roles, right? Like that's all he does. And I thought he did really well as Morbius, and I enjoyed his take on it. But like you said, the direction for the character was so bad.
Right.
The scenes he were in felt so rushed. We didn't get to see the constant battle between the doctor and the vampire.
Right. That's one thing I hated is because at the beginning of the movie when he first becomes this vampire creature, you're thinking in your head, you're like, okay, so we're gonna go into this battle of morality. He's gonna be on one side this doctor who wants to save people's lives, and then on the other side he's gonna be this need for blood and somebody he can't control. But it went into that for the first little bit of the movie, and then next thing you know, in the third act, the beginning of the third act, and it goes into it, it's he can control it. I was no explanation there. It was he can just do his powers to do whatever he wants, not even want for blood anymore. It's just oh, I can just turn into the vampire and then go beat up the bad guy.
Yeah,
that didn't make sense.
Turn back to the human without doing anything.
That doesn't make any sense. I like the idea of the Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. I like that aspect more so, and they didn't go into that I thought that they would.
And I do think that they could have just centered on that for the movie. like say no villain, right? It would just be like a moral drama of the Doctor versus the vampire.
Right.
The Doctor working like day in and day out trying to, find a way to survive, and not kill people. And then the vampire, obviously at night, like doing his thing. That would be a cool, like you said, that inner like morality battle.
I mean, it wouldn't be a perfect movie by no means, even if it was like that. Because, I mean, I feel like Morbius would be such a hard movie anyway to make anyway as a comic book movie. But it would have been 10 times better. I mean, it would have been like a way better of a movie. And I think it potentially could have been better than both Venoms if it went that route. But instead, it did not. And out of the 3 Sony movies, it is by far the worst.
Dude, it's so bad.
And probably, honestly,
it's the worst Marvel.
Probably the worst Marvel movie I've seen. I mean, you could consider it Elektra, but I personally haven't seen Elektra, so I don't know. Or other like early 2000 Marvel movies.
Early 2000s.
I can't judge. I've seen a couple, but not much. But other than that, like it's definitely one of the worst, if not the worst, Marvel movies. So.
It hurt. It generally hurt to watch.
Right.
And that was coming in with low expectations.
Yeah, it did. It did. I mean, Jared Leto, for sure, he, like you said, he looks the part. And he can do the part.
He has a face for it.
I keep feeling bad because Jared Leto keeps getting, I don't know, the short end of the stick.
Like the bad roles. He's a talented actor.
He is.
Like recently, House of Gucci was a good film. I enjoyed it. But dude, apparently people hated his character. Yeah. I thought it was chill.
Right.
But.
And a lot of people are not huge fans of Jared Leto. And I feel like, not the Suicide Squad Joker was terrible. But
that's another one.
I know. Got screwed over in that. But in Justice League Snyder Cut, I liked that portrayal pretty well.
As you know why? Because he was a good director who knew what the crap he was doing.
Right.
Unlike, David Ayer in Suicide Squad, Daniel Espinosa in this one, and then who directed House of Gucci? I can't remember. But
it's super disappointing to see that because I mean it had potential, but it just failed. And plus, nobody really asked for this movie or wanted this movie. Like I feel like even though they're wanting to do this more Sony universe of Spider-Man villains and do that, which is an interesting concept. But Morbius, out of all the characters you could choose from, is a little bit, like why? Because I feel like Morbius would have been cool to see this as like a villain of a Spider-Man movie. Like I feel like that would have been awesome. But Venom makes.
I agree.
Venom makes sense. I mean, Venom's one of the biggest Spider-Man villains. He makes sense. Or other characters they could do. I don't know. Like I'm trying to think of other characters, but like Morbius just doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
At all.
Think about it. They're doing a solo Madam Web movie.
Yeah, that's nobody asked for that.
Morbius it's not that far fetched when you think about that.
Oh yeah, that's true. I mean, and then we have like the Sandman and Rhino movies. We have, which that would be more interesting than Morbius, to be honest.
Yeah.
And then we have what's the other one that's in development? Craven Hunter, which honestly, like I'd rather see him again as a villain in just a Spider-Man movie as to his own movie, to be honest.
Yeah.
But I don't know what they're doing, but they don't know what they're doing.
But shout out Jared Leto. He was truly one of the bright spots.
Right. I agree.
Movie,
All right. Next up, we got to talk about Milo or Loaxius. What do you think about him?
Okay, so I'll say the actor
Matt Smith.
He's
a great actor.
He's a good actor.
Right. He did a good job in his role.
And
he
did a good job. I saw some reviews, people saying that like he stole the show. I don't necessarily know if that's true, but he did a great job. As far as what Daniel Espinosa wanted him to do, he had Matt Smith looking like an idiot 100% of the movie.
Oh, for sure.
The one scene when he's staring at them kissing, like, and they zoom in on his face.
I started busting out laughing.
We started laughing at that.
I feel like people hated us because I thought that was hilarious.
No, it was. The film tried so hard to make him seem intimidating. To make it seem scary, and then on the other hand, they give you like a minute like dance scene of him and his.
That was the worst.
It added nothing to the movie.
No, that was the single worst scene in the movie. By far.
I absolutely hated Milo's character.
I didn't like him either.
But I appreciate what Matt Smith was trying to do in the face of bad direction.
Matt Smith he's a great actor, and what he gives. And I did look it up. Like at first, I was like, is he even the comic books? This character, like I didn't even recognize him, but he is. He's just not a big character. He's called Hunger in the comic books, so not as big, but Hunger, yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. So
his superpower is like he always wants some McDonald's.
He wants blood. So I mean,
that's different.
But yes, Milo. I mean, they gave him his name. I thought that part. I still think that's stupid.
And everyone calls him Milo
because like he had a name. Like he's at the beginning of the movie. He's in the bed with Michael Morbius. And then Michael calls him Milo. And at first I was like, okay, that was probably the person who was there before him.
Yeah.
And he's like the new Milo, and he said that and just kept doing it like that.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
He said there's like 9 other Milos.
And that makes sense, and when he's new there. But the doctor then calling him Milo,
Yeah,
and
the
then when he's
doctor's like,
older, everybody's calling him Milo. I'm like, that's not his name.
Is he sure with that even? I
mean,
guess.
Right? I thought that was stupid, to be honest. And they didn't explain like necessarily why it was his new name and why like it gave him more like, I don't know, character, I guess. But it didn't explain that. Instead, it was just like Milo, and I'm like, that's not his name.
So that's totally like a dog's name. Like every time they say, I was saying like a pet. Or
I'm
something.
like Milo, like come here, Milo.
Milo.
Exactly. Like, I thought that was stupid. And him as a villain, like the character as a villain, like it could have worked, but it didn't at all work.
Yeah.
And they wrote him so cheesy, and they gave him literally.
Cheesy.
And I don't
and
understand.
It's so predictable. The
So
whole brother
predictable.
versus brother thing.
Oh yeah,
We've seen
so
it a
predictable.
billion times.
Oh, a billion times. And I mean, it's getting old. Like it was cool way back when, with like Iron Man, when it comes to like a similar villain that's similar to the hero. But now it's getting old because you have like, Morbius, and then you have another character that's literally the same thing versus him. I mean, you have like Flash and Reverse Flash. You have, which that concept works in that sense, but it didn't work here. And like Venom and Ravage and other stuff like that. It just doesn't work like so much now as it used to. Because now it's getting old.
Yeah, well, think Batman versus Joker. The reason why those two characters are so cool is they're complete opposites.
Exactly.
When you throw in two protagonists and antagonists who are exactly the same, it's
Right.
like that's just not.
It's
interesting.
it's been done so many times, and it did work. Like in Iron Man 1, that worked for that particular movie. Like it worked. But in this sense, it did not work at all. And I just think when I found out he was a vampire, I literally was like, "That's the stupidest thing I've ever seen."
By the way,
Right.
we're just gonna do the one thing where we make your childhood best friend turn evil, become jealous, and then fight you to the
I know.
death.
Where have I seen that before?
I've never seen that before.
What a cool concept. No, I mean, and when I was watching the trailers, it was super deceiving too, because I was thinking that Matt Smith's character would be like this government like hierarchy or this rich dude that wanted to like take Morbius and like dissect him or something like that. Like that would be a lot better.
I was
honestly.
excited. I was excited watching the trailers because I generally didn't know who the villain was.
Exactly.
And when it was revealed in this movie, I was so disappointed.
So disappointed, right? So it's just so bad.
So the villain was terrible. That might have been like my least favorite part of this movie. Was the lack of a real villain.
Yeah, it was not good.
Like I said before, I don't even think they needed a villain because Morbius is bad,
Yeah, right. I mean, the whole dilemma of Morbius, the living vampire, and him as a vampire is the bad guy of the movie, but him as a character is the protagonist, the good guy, as the doctor versus the vampire. It would have been so much better. It would have been so much more interesting. But they failed miserably.
They did.
Next up, we got to talk about Martine Bancroft. I think I pronounced that right. What do you think about her in this movie?
They're just boring.
Yeah, she didn't add much. Did she?
I never related with her.
Yeah.
I never felt like truly anything when she was in there.
The ending with her made zero sense.
Yeah,
it was not explained at all.
She bit his lip. I think she to become the vampire so she didn't die or whatever.
See, but that's the whole thing with like the vampire mythology is that like, if a vampire bites you, you become a vampire. But in this, it's because of a serum, which makes sense, but it doesn't make sense. Like he bit her and now she's a vampire. I don't know. I don't know. That was the stupidest thing. Like when she woke up at the end, I was like, that was supposed to, I bet like, the director's mind was like, dude, people see that, they're gonna be like, whoa. My mind was like, what?
I said, what? No, her character was not even needed in this movie.
No.
She was, dude, well, that part lacked so much creativity. She was every like single like relationship,
damsel in distress.
Yeah, in every single like movie like we've seen, she was there. Like the work, like you don't think they're gonna get together, they get together, something bad happens. Like it was so the writing was so lazy for her character. They literally did nothing with her. She was just there.
Exactly.
To support Morbius.
Exactly.
And to have that cheesy
and
relationship.
I feel like her character would have worked if it made sense. Because like I can't recall this. I mean, she may have been, but I don't even think she was really in the trailers much at all. I don't even remember her in the trailers. And like I think she did like a narrated voiceover, but still, it just her character, like it could have been better, but at the same time, it just didn't work. Like you said, it's boring. The ending didn't make sense with her becoming a vampire. It was not explained very well.
Dumb. I really hope they don't have future plans for
I don't think they will. I think they did, but I don't think they can now. I really don't, because the fan base is going to ruin this movie.
Dude, I hope so. It still made $40 million.
Oh, I'm not shocked. Like it'll make money, but just because people want to see how bad it is.
I really do hope it bombs.
I mean, I think it'll. I don't think it'll bomb. I think it'll do more than it's worth. But I think they'll see that it's bad, and then they just won't do anything else with it more. But I don't know. We'll see what happens. All right, next up, we got to talk about Tyrese Gibson's character and Agent Rodriguez. I don't even remember Tyrese Gibson's character. That's how underused he was in this movie. Because Tyrese Gibson. The detective.
The good one, right?
The good one.
Not the
Agent Rodriguez, the mustache guy who's an idiot.
I
did not like that character. Gosh, I just wanted to punch him every time he's on screen.
But Tyrese Gibson, I felt, was one of the good parts of the movie.
Oh, he was definitely one of the good parts of the movie, but he was not used to his proper.
Yeah.
Because he originally was supposed to have a bigger role, I saw. Like, he was supposed to, like, develop powers, like, apparently.
Really?
And he was supposed to be, like, some character.
Like, he was grounded. He was realistic.
But he wasn't in the movie enough. Like, he had probably, like, a total, like, 5 minutes screen time, if that.
Which, and I do think the movie should have centered a little bit more on the detective side of things, right? Because you're seeing all these, like, murders, like, sprees going on, right?
Right.
And who deals with the consequences of that? The detectives do, the police force. So, like, show us that. So I thought he did a good job, but I hated the pairing they had with him and the other dude.
That Agent Rodriguez, he was like supposed to be comedic relief, but every time he's on screen, I just wanted him to die.
I didn't hear anyone in our theater laugh.
No,
like,
at all. Anything he said. Like, he tried, like, I feel like it was so forced, and none of the comedy was funny.
That's another thing. It just had no comedy.
No, all the comedy in this movie, no one in my theater laughed at. The only laughable parts were stuff that happened within the movie that were supposed to be serious. Yeah. That's the only part that people actually laughed at.
They're just so bad.
That's why. Like, the agent dude, like, the whole kitty litter thing, I was like, oh my gosh, are you kidding me?
That was so dumb.
So dumb. Oh,
I just don't understand, dude.
That character was
Bro,
so
I'm telling
bad.
you, this movie was, like, written in 2 days.
Dude, had it been.
We could have written a better movie.
We for sure written a better movie. Oh my goodness. Anyway, next up, we got to talk about Michael Keaton as Vulture, Adrian Toomes. They again ruined him.
Dude, they clicked. So he was in the movie, right? Initially in January.
He was supposed to be in the movie,
and then they changed probably like a good portion of it.
I do think the movie would have done better and been better if it had the January release. I don't think it would have been as good anyway. But I feel like if they kept the stuff in, didn't cut it out, kept the Spider-Man stuff, kept the Adrian Toomes scenes with Michael Keaton, and the hype from Spider-Man No Way Home, would have helped it tremendously. Yeah. I do think so.
It would have piggybacked right off of it. And with all the Spider-Man references, dude, it would have done a lot better.
It would have done a lot better.
It lost so much
It
hype.
wouldn't have been as good, but at the same time, I feel like it probably would have been a lot more likable, if I'm being honest. I really do think because of the hype. And that didn't work out for this movie because they waited and then they took out all the stuff and they clickbaited the crap out of us and it was just terrible.
I know, it was so disappointing.
And not to mention the 2 super confusing, super bad end credit scenes that could have been super cool and amazing. That
Both
made zero sense.
Terrible.
So bad. Like the first one, right? You have the multiverse portal open, and at first I was like, cool, what's up? And then you have Michael Keaton appear in the Sonyverse, right, with Morbius, Venom, appear there, and apparently they stole him from the MCU and put him there. And I'm like, how did he get taken from that universe to there?
Why?
I want to say it's because of the whole multiversal thing and everybody forgetting who Spider-Man is. I want to say that's why, because they took him out to the universe, but that still doesn't make sense because you would think he just would forget who Spider-Man is. Like, he'd forget he's Peter Parker and he would just stay in that universe. But it didn't make sense. And he just popped up in the cell and then they're going to release him. And then the second post-credit scene was even worse because the dialogue was absolute crap.
Yeah,
so bad.
The dialogue in this movie is so bad.
Because you have Vulture coming up and Morbius coming up and they're going to tease like, we need to team up. Like, that was stupid. Like, why would you team up with him? How do you even know who that is?
Good. First, Michael Morbius is a good dude.
Right.
And he would never join a team of villains to kill a teenage kid.
Oh, it does not make sense. He's like, I believe this has something to do with Spider-Man. Why would it have something to do with Spider-Man? And then he was like, we need to team up. We could do some good. Why would you go to Michael Morbius? How do you even know who that is?
Yeah. How do you know who Morbius is? Why would Morbius even be interested in the first place?
It doesn't make sense.
And which Spider-Man are they teaming up against?
I don't know.
Like, they didn't even give us a hint.
I don't know, because
that's what I'm disappointed.
Vulture is talking about Tom Holland, but it doesn't make sense in the area of what they're doing. I know they're teasing a Sinister Six, and it is rumored that for a Sinister Six movie to happen.
Doesn't know who Peter Parker is.
It was so bad.
I sometimes after an absolutely terrible movie with, say, Marvel, you kind of look forward to the end credits.
Exactly.
You're like, man, I think there has to be like
we want to end on a high note,
right, or something. This made it worse.
It did make it worse.
It was so bad, dude.
So bad.
It legitimately added nothing. And listen to the fact of we need to team up didn't excite me for the future of the Sinister Six and the Sonyverse at all.
Because it didn't make sense. Like, I feel like he could have wrote it to where it did make sense if he was actually in the movie. But instead of actually making him an end credit scene to where it just doesn't make sense at all,
Like, if they
it
had
didn't work.
referenced him in the beginning, they're like,
Right.
oh, like somebody takes him down, like he's a little jerk. Or...
It did not work, and it was stupid, and the trailers were super deceiving, and they were just bad. And I'm
Clickbaited
so
us.
disappointed. All right, so let's get into the cons. We talked a lot about them, but we'll get into the more nitty grittiness of the cons. So you want to hit us off with your first big con, major con, or minor, whatever?
My first thing I noticed about this film was the dialogue, dude.
Dialogue's
I know
terrible.
we just mentioned it. It's like worse than Revenge of the Sith. And Revenge of the Sith like doesn't
It's
have
not
great
terrible.
dialogue. But like you're talking about scenes where Morbius is Michael says, you know what? I'm the one who brought this into the world, so I'm gonna be the one to take it out.
My least favorite line in this entire movie, besides like the end credit scene, not including those lines from Michael Keaton, was the scene where he's in like the cell, or not in the cell, but in like the holding room, and they're talking to him.
Yeah.
And he goes, "You don't want to see me when I'm hungry," and then hisses at him. That just killed me inside because I was like, "Are you kidding me?" That was the dumbest line I've ever heard in my
Dude,
life.
I was pissed off. Like,
right. Like they tried to steal that line. You don't want to see me when I'm angry, like from the Hulk, and that line fits perfectly the Hulk. That's a great line for the Hulk because it just makes up his character. But you don't want to see me when I'm hungry. That just made me want to die inside.
Yeah,
so bad.
I can't lie. It lacked all originality and creativity. I don't know who wrote the script of this movie, but they gotta get fired ASAP because it was probably the most cheesy and like worst script I've ever heard. Like legitimately,
it was bad.
It was terrible.
It was really bad. Like it did not fit with the lines and all the stuff that was going on in the movie. Just super cheesy, super I don't know, typical.
Either they'd rush through something and wouldn't explain it, or they sit there and like over explain just like
exactly.
Kind of thing.
And this movie had no reason to be bad either because I mean they had the opportunities for test screenings. They've pushed back the release date 7 different times. This movie's supposed to come out way back in 2020, and they had so much time to form this movie into what it could have been and what it should have been, and yet they failed miserably. And every time that they delayed it, I feel like they just honestly probably made it worse.
They took out like what people were looking forward to.
Exactly. And
Spider-Man.
Added stuff that was just dumb. And to go with the cons, again, I gotta say, like, I mean, it is broad, but it's the biggest con and it's the most important factor of a movie, and that's the plot. The plot was terrible in this movie. So bad, it did not make sense. And along with the plot con, the pacing of the plot was terrible.
Dude, the pacing was so
the pacing
bad.
with the plot, because you jump at the helicopter scene in the very beginning, right? And you're like, okay, I'm interested. What's happening? Then you come to the orphanage. The orphanage scene should have been first.
I know why are you starting with like his origin?
And then they didn't really go back to that origin.
They didn't touch it.
They didn't touch it. All they said, the only thing that is referenced within that origin was that he has bats in the cage. That's the only thing that suggests that he went to Costa Rica. Like
it didn't show how he got back.
No,
like,
it doesn't. It didn't explain why he even cut himself and like the arm.
How did he get power? It's just bats flying around him with a cut hand.
In the trailer, in the movie, that's how I thought he was going to get his powers. Like when I was watching the trailers originally, I was like, okay, this is how he gets his powers. Okay, cool. Let's see it in the movie. This did not work. It's a serum, and it didn't explain it well at all. And the pacing there was terrible. The pacing in the beginning, middle, end was just terrible. Plot in general did not work. And that is just one of the biggest cons for me.
Listen.
And that's the most important factor of a movie. So that sucks for it to be bad.
I completely agree. I think another huge con to this movie was the CGI. Don't get me wrong. I like some of the fight scenes, but dude, the CGI was so overused, and the film like relied really heavily on the action scenes. I feel to make up for all the other stuff. But the action scenes, it's a really dark movie, so it's hard to watch to know what's going on, to see the characters fighting back and forth. It was just, I liked the CGI for Morbius, I did, but when it came to the fight scenes with the shadows and the quick movements, I thought they could have simplified it a little bit more than what they did.
Oh, they definitely could have. Yeah, I agree completely. And along with that, like, the vampire aspects to me were just so stupid in this movie as well. Because, like, it just didn't make sense. I feel like it could have worked, but, like, the whole, like, oh, you get this serum, you're a vampire. Oh, no, he bit her, she's a vampire. And it's completely different from the original comic origin. It did not fit with the comics. It's not like the comics. It should have been more like we said earlier, the 2 in 1 person, right? The 2 aspects, like, where they go back and forth, trying to debate with that morality inside. But they did not do that. and it was so bad because in one scene he could not control himself at all in the beginning, and then later he could control himself the whole time. So it just did not work.
Yeah,
I hated that.
He's full blown Morbius, but he's
Right.
fighting the bad guy of the film,
Exactly.
like while restraining himself. Like,
did not fit.
What?
It was just bad.
I think another huge con was just the lack of development in any of the characters in the movie.
The storytelling was terrible.
Like,
yeah,
there was none. You didn't relate to anybody. You didn't feel for anybody. You know. I mean, Jared Leto probably the most like depth to his story, and you still didn't feel like super attached to him. But the detectives, Matt Smith's character, his girlfriend was just they were just there, dude.
exactly.
And I felt nothing for the characters. And one of them would have died, I could have cared less.
Exactly. No, I wouldn't have cared. I'd be like, okay, bye.
I don't care. At all.
I don't care.
Get the heck out of here.
And then also the cons, we already talked about this, but I just got to talk about it in because, like we said, it's one of our biggest cons is the villain. The villain was terrible.
Oh my gosh.
And the whole thing, I mean, Matt Smith, nothing against him because he did what he was told to do. But the character himself was just terrible, did not fit well with the movie. And flipping Milo, whatever his name is, it didn't work.
Milo.
It did not work, and I did not like that. But that concludes my cons. I mean, those are broad, but they're just the ultimate of the movie was just a big con.
Yeah. No,
the movie itself.
Every single big aspect of the movie was bad. Like, you talk about
Exactly.
dialogue, you talk about writing,
Exactly.
you talk about plot, you talk about like character development, like cinematography,
Mhm.
those big areas. Every single one of those was bad.
Right.
Like, generally,
right.
you
Right.
know, like
Yeah. Did not work out well. But to get into a little bit on to the higher notes, end on a higher note, we got to talk about a little bit of pros that we had about this movie. Not many, but a little bit of pros. So I'll start us off since you started the cons. I got to say, I enjoyed the action for what it was in this movie. The action scenes were cool. Yes, it was kind of hard to, catch on what was going on. But like you said, when we walked out of the theater, the whole boat scene.
the boat scene was cool.
Really cool.
I really enjoyed
and him
that
going
scene.
around killing people and like the ominous feel of that was cool. Or the action scene, the hallway scene was pretty cool.
Oh, dude,
And
the hallway
creepiness
scene,
of it.
I still think like was one of the best.
Yeah.
Because it actually made you feel
Right.
like that was the only time you like genuinely like concerned or like
Yeah, you're like, what's
on
going
the
to happen?
edge of your seat.
Exactly.
For a vampire movie.
Exactly. And I mean, the action of that, I think it was pretty cool as well. So that's one of my pros.
Nah, listen, shut up. That was pretty nice. I know this is basic. But I'm gonna say it anyway. Obviously, but Jared Leto. In addition with some of the action scenes, I feel like, it was one of the huge bright spots. I really want to see more of him in this role.
Mhm.
Under a completely like new director. With
Right.
a completely different. Just I don't know.
With a
I
better
just
basis.
I want him to redeem himself. Is
I
what
do.
I'm saying.
Yeah, I see what
And
you're
I
saying.
think he can.
We'll
But
see.
he's a great actor, and I
Right.
think for what it's worth, he did a good job in this role.
Yeah, I think you're right.
He was fun to watch.
And another pro is the cinematography. I
You
did
liked
enjoy
it?
it. I think the cinematography was good. I didn't find many flaws within that. And along with the CGI, I feel like was a bit much at times because I didn't like the purple mist like going around like when he was floating around. I thought that was
Yeah.
stupid. But the CGI itself and the like, I don't know, I guess makeup or art design of his look was great to me. I thought
love the
I thought
look,
the look was
yeah.
great. And the cinematography itself, like the shot in Costa Rica was great with the helicopter coming down. I thought that was great. And some of the other scenes on like the boat scene and stuff, I thought those were pretty great. So I had that as a little bit of a pro.
Okay. I've never said this before about a movie because usually I have a lot more pros.
Mm.
But I really enjoyed the music score.
The music
I thought
was good.
was pretty decent for this movie.
Yeah, the music was
So-
good. But the one thing with the
I'm
music
reaching now.
is they literally stole music from The Dark Knight. Like
Really?
if you notice, like when he steps into the vampire bat cage and they're all flying around him, that's literally the music from Dark Knight.
That's another thing too, dude. Like, well, never mind. That's a con. I won't get into it. But it felt so much like they were ripping off parts of Dark Knight.
They were trying to.
It
They
felt
couldn't do it.
So bad.
It's so bad. All right, so what do we think real quickly about the future of the Sonyverse now? Because of all of this stuff that happened, what do we think? Because we know Craven's coming, we know Madam Web's coming, all this stuff. But what do you think? Do you think this will be like a sloping point to where it's just going to go downhill from here and that maybe
Yeah.
they'll cancel it? Or what do you think?
I don't think they'll cancel it. Right? It's Sony. They're gonna make money regardless.
Right.
But I'm genuinely not excited. We don't know who they're going to be fighting, first of all. I doubt it's going to be Tom Holland because he's in the MCU, and
No.
Sony is going to keep their characters.
Right.
Right?
Right.
So if anybody, it'd probably be Garfield.
Right. Or unless they do like a Spider Woman, which honestly, if they did a Spider Woman movie, I feel like that would work better in the Sonyverse, like having a protagonist. It
Yeah.
needs a protagonist.
I recognize what they're doing, and I see they're trying to make their own niche, right? By doing the whole anti-hero thing, which is cool, right? But you gotta do
Right.
it right. The 3 movies we've seen from them so far, I know the two Venoms are better, right? Venom 1's probably the best, but none of them are that good of a film.
No,
Like realistically, Morbius is trash. Let There Be is decent.
yeah,
And Venom 1 is like is it's okay,
pretty good. Yeah, right.
but none of them are that good.
No,
And so now they're gonna be introducing all these new characters that we've never seen before.
and they're not going to work.
Yeah,
So it's super unfortunate.
so I'm just at a loss for words.
Exactly.
I just don't understand it. Why would it?
It's just disappointing.
I'm not
Super
excited for it.
disappointing. No, not at all.
Like, why are they announcing Madam Web? They've done 3 movies.
Madam Web
Madam Web
coming soon. that's gonna flop hard. I mean,
She-
we'll
that-
see
that
it.
needs
We'll
to
review
be
it, but like
a side character,
more than a
in
side
a-
character,
in
like a
a-
very very small character.
or like even a reference. I don't know.
So dumb.
But
So
I'm
dumb.
not. Listen, I'm not excited for the future of the Sonyverse.
I'm not
I
either.
don't know what the crap they're doing, and I haven't.
They don't know what they're doing either.
Yeah, I haven't really enjoyed any of their stuff. Like,
No.
there's such a complete difference with that, and then some of Marvel stuff. Marvel's like bad stuff is on the same level with like Sony's better stuff.
Oh yeah.
I feel.
Oh yeah. It for sure is. So we'll see what happens. So rating it out of 10, Nathan. How would you do that?
Ooh, out of 10, man. I can't remember what the lowest I've given. This one's gonna be probably the lowest. I'm gonna give this one. Frick. I'm gonna give it. Dang, dude.
I know.
I'm trying to think. Like, how low can I go? Like, what?
You can go as low as you want, man. I mean, out of 10.
I'm gonna give it. I mean, it's a 16%. That's
It
like
is on
really
that's
bad.
rotten on tomatoes.
I'm gonna give it a 3.
Give it a 3 out of 10.
I'm gonna give it a 3 out of 10.
I'm giving it a 3 out of 10 too.
Really?
I'm
I was gonna
saying-
go with a 2, but I was like, you know what?
I was thinking.
There's.
I was
worse
thinking
movies
about
than
4,
that.
and then I was thinking like 3.5 because I don't think 4 is. I feel like that's too good. Honestly, because 4 is bad, but I feel like that's too good. I was thinking about 3.5, but I want to keep it even numbers at this low, like whole numbers at this low of time. So I'm gonna
Yeah.
give it 3 too.
3.
Like, it did not work. Was not as good as it could have been, and I expected so much more. Even though my expectations were low, but they were lowered
Yeah,
because of this movie.
they were so low, and we were still disappointed.
we were still so
coming in.
that's pretty messed up. So that's what I have to say about Morbius.
All right, guys. If you enjoyed this episode, let us know by giving us a review and a download. Big announcement. Well, I guess it's not a big announcement, but Moon Knight episode 2 dropping Thursday
It could
morning.
be a big announcement depending what's in it.
You're right. You're right.
Right. You
So
never know.
hey, so Thursday morning, check it out. Moon Knight episode 2, dude. I'm so hyped for
So
this
hyped.
series. This is good quality.
Great quality.
And then feel free to check out our latest episodes. We dropped Moon Knight episode 1 complete breakdown. So go ahead and check that out. Show some love.
Yes, and we definitely appreciate it. And as always, we love you 3000.